I and lots of humanitarian groups all around the world that 2 years plus on, the genocide is still continuing. And it seems, apart from humanitarian organizations like yourself, the rest of the world seems to be silent and are unable to halt the genocide.
Well, I think, Julie, it's surprised and absolutely horrified. I mean, the fact that over 60,000 people have died, that every day Israel is bombing Gaza, the occupied territories, plus countries around like Qatar, like Yemen, and the world where people, the ones that can stop it, are not. And I don't know whether it's about them not being able to. I think it's a lack of political will because, how many reports, Julie, do we need before these leaders actually take action? I mean, many organizations, including ours, have come out and declared this a genocide. And, for your listeners, it's not a simple declaration. Under the Genocide Convention, we have to actually prove that Israel is not only genocide is about intent and execution. We've seen execution because we've watched it on our screens. We've watched it. It's in our spaces. It's on social media. We've watched it live as they are executing the genocide. The intent in this case has been easier to determine because we've had top political leaders like the defense minister calling Palestinians human animals. We've had Netanyahu saying that, calling Gaza, calling the Palestinians monsters and saying Gaza is a city of evil. So there was clear intent to annihilate the Palestinians. So there's ethnic cleansing going on and they are annihilating them. And, the leaders have been silent or haven't done enough, even though ones that have spoken up. Why are we unable to stop this merciless slaughter of innocents? So I think it's really an indictment on the leaders of the world, and they, in our view, are complicit. If you have the power to stop something and you don't do it, you are complicit in this genocide.
Now, we also understand that very sadly, Israeli forces and authorities have committed 4 acts prohibited under the Genocide Convention. What would those 4 acts be, given that we've seen over 2 years of unimaginable horrors being perpetrated on the Palestinian people?
Well, Julie, the 4 acts are, the first one is killing members of the group. The second one is causing them serious bodily and mental harm. The third one is deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in part or in whole. And the fourth one is imposing measures intended to prevent births. So those are the 4 under the Genocide Convention that Israel, that all the organizations and this latest report by, chaired by our own Navi Pillay, have found Israel guilty of. And, we can see that. I mean, when it comes to the fourth one, which is preventing, births, they have been bombing hospitals. They have been killing doctors. They have been taking out anything that could support healthcare and the ability of Palestinians to enjoy a healthy life. And then, of course, the causing serious bodily and mental harm. I mean, that goes without saying. We have seen children with limbs amputated. We have seen the numbers of janazas. It's like something out of a horror movie. And, they are deliberately causing physical destruction, not only to the infrastructure, but to the people of Palestine. So they are guilty under the Genocide Convention. And I think that, this report is important because now it forces the UN members and those that have signed up to the Genocide Convention, which is most countries in the world, to now stop saying that they didn't know the extent or they don't know what's going on, because now there's no excuse. They have to take action, and that action has to happen speedily and with immediacy. And I think that now, it's going to be really important to see what happens next.
Shenilla, I read somewhere, and it could be false, fake news, but I think it was something to the effect that Israel have not signed or have not signed up to this convention, the Geneva Convention. Does that mean, if that is in fact true, that it exempts them from any wrongdoing, the
No.
horrors of this genocide? How does that play? What about countries, apart from Israel, other countries as well, who find themselves in a similar situation or find that they're complicit in some way, perhaps by supplying arms, etc., and they haven't signed up to the convention? Does it exempt them?
No. So basically, there's something called the third party state. So if you have signed up, then you are obliged to take action, right? So, for example, if there are arrest warrants out against these leaders, Netanyahu, against the defense minister, against the president, and in fact, in the report, Navi Pillai's report, they cite these three individuals as people who need to be prosecuted for crimes against humanity and genocide. Because remember, it's not just the slaughtering and the Genocide Convention, but they are also causing starvation and famine, and that is a crime against humanity. So no, it does not exempt them. Um, uh, it does put pressure on the countries that have signed up to actually carry out their responsibilities. So, for example, these countries now will have to stop providing arms. They will have to stop supporting Israel in any way when it comes to resources, arms, any political, economic. We're also asking them to reconsider trade links with Israel because, if you recall, Julie, during apartheid, I mean, a lot of countries cut ties with South Africa when it comes to trade, when it came to trade, and it had a huge impact. So, Israel, while they have not signed up to any of these, the countries that have and members of the United Nations are obliged under international law to actually fulfill their responsibilities under this convention, as well as execute warrants that have been put out by the ICJ and the ICC, so the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice. So I think that, it's going to, basically, if Israel does visit these countries, or and these countries continue to supply arms, they too can be brought against the ICJ, into the ICJ or the ICC, and they can be held as being complicit to a genocide. And I think that is really critical. So, Judy, it's been 2 years and it's been just heartbreaking. But, I feel like we're moving closer to trying to get some justice for those innocents that have been slaughtered. It's been horrendous that it's had to take 2 years for us to get here. But I think, as Navi Pillay said when she was presenting this report, that, what's really critical, and Amnesty is also very clear about this, is the evidence that we are gathering. So, each organization did not take on evidence from other organizations. We all went in and did our own assessment. And, what Navi Pillai's report and our report, it's really our own gathering of evidence. And all of this is going to be so critically important when these cases come to the ICC and the ICJ.
How long? We're going to go for an ad break in a minute or two, Shenilla, but let's understand how long before these cases are heard at the ICC and the ICJ. Clearly, Netanyahu and his cronies seem to be not worried at all about these cases. And that could be because they know that they've got Trump behind them. They've got the UK behind them as well. I mean, recently, as you're well aware, that any pro-Palestinian activities or marches or protests that play out in Britain, the protesters can be arrested. And that's quite draconian, is it not? So it seems as if Western governments will do anything under their watch to try and stifle the pro-Palestinian voices in Western countries.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, and I think the reason that Israel is so emblazoned and so emboldened by all of this is because they know that they have America behind them. Without these countries, I mean, Israel is nothing. So, I mean, they have America behind them. They have the United States. They have certain very powerful members of the European Union, including the European Union president, supporting them. And so, this is why they continue to, challenge and to do whatever it is that they want. But the other thing, Julie, is that they are also threatening ICJ members, ICC members. They're putting sanctions. They're doing everything, and the United States is doing the same thing. So they're doing everything in their power to dismantle the institutions that we have existing for international law and global justice. And, they are trying their hardest to break everything down. But I think, they're not going to succeed because there are enough countries out there and enough protest action out there for us to see a light at the end of this tunnel. But, it really requires us to pressurize these countries to stop supporting Israel. And that is something that I think all of us have been working really hard on.
We're going for an ad break, but what is very troublesome is the fact that the breakdown by these foreign powers or supposed world powers trying to break down the strength of the international justice system, because if that is not stopped, then what's the future, not only for you and I, for Palestine, for South Africa, but the global community as a whole.
Exactly.
But Shenilla, let's go for an ad break. We'll be back in a minute or
Sure.
two.
This is Salam Media.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, yet many children go to school hungry because of poverty. Penny Appeal South Africa's Breakfast Club aims to get a warm, hearty meal to underprivileged children so they can spend their day prospering in their schoolwork. Help feed a needy learner for only 5 Rand a day, or 150 Rand a month. Or visit our website www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573 to find out how you can donate. Penny Appeal South Africa. Small change, big difference.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Gaza needs your support more than ever. Homes have been shattered and families have lost everything. With your support, our teams are delivering clean water tankers, feeding the hungry, and assisting orphans who have no one left. Let us give Gaza whatever help we can. African Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, buckies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Welcome back. It is exactly 18 after 8 o'clock, and we're talking with Shenilla Mohamed. She is the Executive Director of Amnesty International South Africa, and this is in response to a report submitted by the UN's Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the occupied Palestinian territory including East Jerusalem and Israel to the 60th session of the UN Human Rights Council. So that's exactly what we're unpacking here today, Shenilla. And I kind of wonder, earlier on you spoke about the killing of babies and, of course, trying to, because of all of the hospitals and medical facilities have been destroyed in Gaza, that is a clear intent to prevent births, Palestinian births, obviously. And the intent there, of course, is very clear. They want to annihilate a future Palestinian population. And it is as horrid and as ghastly as that.
You know, Julie, this is not the first time.
Shenilla.
I mean, this is not the first time. I mean, Israel has a history of crippling and, trying to make sure that Palestinians are, in a way, disabled. I mean, we saw it during the great protest that happened in Palestine when all those people died, when the doctors were killed. You know, they'll always target the legs. They'll always target, anything to make Palestinians disabled if they don't kill them. And I think that they're just carrying on with stuff that they've been doing over and over again, except that this time it's exponentially, much greater than what they've done in the past. So their intent is definitely to get rid of as many Palestinians as they possibly can. I mean, shooting people when they are queuing for food, shooting children. We know that, certain kids have had up to 300 bullets in their bodies. I mean, who does that? So there's definitely a dehumanization of the Palestinian people. They no longer see them as humans. They just see them as targets. And I think that for me is the horror of what is happening here, is that Palestinians are no longer regarded as humans by these monsters. They are regarded as just targets for them to play with. And I think that, that is, and it's astounding that the world sits back and allows it. And, one more thing, Julie, that I think is important for us to consider as people of color, is that we are still living in a world where the color of your skin matters, where your life becomes more valuable depending on the color of your skin. We saw how people in Ukraine, how they jumped around when Ukraine happened. And of course, this is not to take away from the fact that victims in Ukraine deserve the justice. I mean, this is not a comparative, but it's more about the way in which the world treats people of color. And I think that, Palestinian life is of less importance because, nobody seems to be wanting to stop this genocide. Whereas when it comes to Ukraine, there's every effort happening. And then, Julie, the one thing I think as Muslims, we can't also ignore is the way in which our Muslim countries have also not really done enough to stop this genocide. And, that for me is one of the other more disturbing things, that, you're not willing to fight for your own. The rhetoric is of no use, Julie, if you're not going to put into place actions that are going to force the hand of these genocidal killers. And yet we don't see that. We just see a continuing normalization. We see Muslim countries, even when Doha was attacked, when Qatar was attacked, I don't feel that we got that level of anger from the Muslim world that you would expect to see. I mean, Dubai is really in the forefront of the attacks on the UAE on Yemen, and yet I think that as Muslims we don't realize that these Muslim countries are just as complicit as the other countries.
We often talk about Western countries who are the arms suppliers, and obviously it's all about bottom line and what's in it for me as a country. Their trade deals and all of that comes into play here as well. And you actually preempted my final question, talking about the surrounding Muslim countries, the countries surrounding Palestine, obviously. What is it, and why do you believe that they're so paralyzed? Is it because of the investment that the West has made in, I suppose, bilateral investments with the Western countries that has paralyzed them because they stand to lose way too much? Are they afraid of also then being bombed as Gaza has been bombed? What is the deal here? Why is it that these Muslim countries are absolutely paralyzed and refuse to lift a finger to assist the Palestinian people? We hear reports that behind the scenes there is a lot, and there all these ongoing meetings behind the scenes where Muslim countries are engaging with the West to try and stop the genocide. But is that enough?
You know what, Julie? I mean, I feel like to some extent, and what I say is going to be probably controversial, but I think that Muslim countries, some of the Muslim countries, sold their souls to the West a long time ago. If you look at, I was working in Dubai during the first Gulf War, and I saw the way in which Saudi Arabia, in particular, welcomed the Americans in and helped them set up that base and paid them to set up these bases. So I think that Muslim countries have really, to some extent, been bought over a lot by the Western world. But the thing that is so frustrating for me is that Muslim powers have the power to bring this to an end. Oil, everybody wants oil, Julie. I mean, if they stopped providing this and they made it very clear that we are not going to go ahead with this until the genocide stops, and then we will come to the table and talk. But nobody is willing to do that. And I think that, at the end of the day, the blood of the Palestinians is on the hands of all of these leaders, including the Muslim world, because in my view, they have not done even the bare minimum that they could do. Talk is going nowhere, and they know it. But they continue with this game. It's like a game, whereas, for the Palestinian people, they are literally living in hell. If there is any picture of what hell can and should look like, it's what is happening in Palestine at the moment. And, again, another controversial statement from me, as Muslims, we should really think about, when we plan our visits or our holidays to these countries, Dubai or other countries, once again, if we really want to see a difference, we have to we have to take personal decisions. Like, we are not going to go on holiday there. We are not going to, we are going to boycott these countries until they do something that protects, the Palestinians or anywhere else, or the Yemenis. I mean, why are they bombing the Yemenis? So I think that, there's certain decisions as Muslims, as individuals, we can take. And my appeal to people is think about it. Think about it when you are planning your holidays, when you're planning your umrah, when you're planning this and that, because I personally don't believe that Allah is going to be upset with us for standing firm against people who are complicit in a genocide.
I agree with you totally, 101% on that. Let's wrap up then, Shenilla. Amnesty International has urged all states, beginning with those that have supported Israel for the last 2 years, to shift course. Do you believe your voice and the voices of other groups all around the country, all around the world, would be able to make a difference at this point in time? Things have gotten so horribly out of control. It seems as if the apartheid Israeli masters are gone absolutely gun crazy and bomb crazy, and they're not going to stop till they decimate Gaza to the absolute ground. Your thoughts?
I think that voices in of themselves will probably not make the difference that you and I want today. What we want is, to wake up to the news that the genocide has stopped, that they have stopped bombing Gaza, they have stopped killing innocents. I don't, in all honesty, Julie, I don't see that happening like in the next, near future. But I think what we have been able to do is we have been able to, along with our voices, provide evidence. And I think that is going to be very critical. We have been able to provide, I mean, as Amnesty, we have had people on the ground. We have provided evidence. We have gotten evidence. We've provided evidence to the South African ICJ case. We're considering becoming a sort of witness in the ICJ case. So, I think what it really is that every little effort that all of us do and put together will yield results. So I think the most important thing, Julie, is that we don't give up. We don't stop protecting the international institutions. Look, they're not perfect. There's a lot that needs to be changed there, but at the moment, that's all we've got. And at the end of the day, we try to do our best, whether it is financially, whether it is with personal decisions, and whether it is speaking and shouting out loud. I think in South Africa, we are so fortunate that we are able to speak. In many countries of the world, you saw what happened in the UK. I mean, they are just arresting 90-year-olds who are holding up placards. South Africa, we have a voice. Let's use it. Let's fight, and let's keep on fighting and not giving up.
Always a pleasure talking with you, the voice of reason, Shenilla Mohamed, Amnesty International. Your organization and others like yourself will go down on the right side of history. So keep up the great work. Lovely talking with you after a very, very long absence. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam, Julie. Thank you so much.
It's 8:29, and that was Shenilla Mohamed, Executive Director of Amnesty International South Africa, talking about the genocide in Gaza, and that it has been documented, and not only Amnesty International but other human rights groups as well have established and can prove that this is in fact a genocide that is being perpetrated on the people of Palestine.